Injured in a motor vehicle accident? Call Robert C. Allen, an experienced lawyer prepared to confront insurance companies and negligent drivers. Attorney Allen brings 30 plus years of strong representation to obtain the settlement you deserve. Call Robert C. Allen at 850-438-6800 for a free consultation. That's 850-438-6800 or visit www.robertcallen.com. Watch the Ask Robert C. Allen show on WBQP-TV Pensacola Speaks on Blab TV and follow him on all social media platforms.
Good evening. Good evening. Thank you for joining The Other Woman magazine on our discussion tonight on marriage and depression. My co-host, the other way, Mr. Errol Tolbert. You probably recognize him from a previous broadcast on men and depression and also relationships and depression. You'll be seeing him every month. We will be bringing a new topic dealing with depression. Our guest tonight, no strangers to The Other Woman magazine, Wendy and Mark and Wendy Shipman. I got to give that equal.
That's right. We're sitting opposite ways here.
And that is okay. Mark, we know who wears the pants in the family. The woman always
we know who wears the pants.
Yes. We just make you all think you wear the pants. Thank you guys. Thank you guys for joining us. And I ask for those of you who are tuning in to please share this video, tag those who you know or may be dealing with depression or know someone who is dealing with depression. And Errol, I just want to thank you for requesting that or suggesting that we do this once a month, because for someone who does not live or deal with depression, it's difficult to understand the need for forums like this. So I appreciate you.
No problem.
How was everyone's day today? Let's start with that.
Oh, it was good. It was good. It was sunny at first, and then it started raining a little bit, and got a little dreary. But other than that, it's a pretty good day.
Good. You, Earl, how was your day today?
It was uneventful.
That's a good thing, right?
Yes.
Okay. Speaking of uneventful, you use that word. We're going to jump right into it. Mark and Wendy, why don't you introduce yourselves with saying how long you've been married, where you met?
Oh, wow. Well, April the 21st, we'll be married 5 years. So we haven't.
You guys are still newlyweds.
Yeah, pretty much. And we're still married. How we met, I don't normally say we met on the internet, but I guess technically we did. I have a depression group on Facebook, and I had invited him one time, long time ago, after his previous wife had passed away. I saw some of the things that he was saying online, and I invited him into the group, to kind of cope with things, to get some motivation, some inspirational thoughts from other people who were going through depression as well. And basically that's how we met. We had no intentions of dating, didn't really know him, there's no interest there. I just wanted him to be on something to kind of help, because I know how it is to be depressed. I know how it is to not have anyone to really listen to, some of the things that we go through. Mm-hmm. And so, it still didn't prosper until months down the line, when we started. I think there was something that I was going through, and he contacted me and was like, are you okay? And I'm like, yeah, but I can't talk right now because I'm at work. How about just call me at home or something like that? And that's how we started, talking about, what was going on with us, him missing his wife and having a son, a teenager at home. And I was talking about, what was going on with me. I didn't necessarily have anything really going on except just my depression. I had a daughter in college, a son in high school, and, they didn't give me any problems, but it was just
life
mentality. And so, we found each other talking every day. And, one thing just led to another after the very first time that we actually met. We met in March. What is today? Today is
the 9th.
Next week, the 10th.
No.
So actually, we met on the 9th of March. So
today's the 9th, right?
No, tomorrow.
Tomorrow's the 9th.
So we officially met on the 9th of March. And we've been together since then. And ever since then, we still dated long distance because I was from South Carolina. He was from Alabama. Like I said, we had no intentions of even trying to get together because, I had my life back there. He had his life here. But somehow there was a foundation that was laid in the very beginning because we didn't go in wanting to become a couple. It was just that foundation was laid to where, we had different interests and, talking about things and laughing about things. And we just found comfort in each other. And so that was a very big part of us coming together as one.
Let me ask Mark. Now, Mark, the man is usually the hunter, the one who pursues the woman. So Wendy says that there was no, you guys weren't going to have a relationship. In your head, be honest, in your head, were you like, okay, I'm gonna get with that?
No.
None whatsoever.
Not at all. What happened was that I think she saw the difference between grief and depression. Because I never would admit about depression, And so what would happen was, I'm at home. It's just me and a 12-year-old boy. And so all we want to talk about was basketball and food. And see, the thing is that you can't. It's just different, in my opinion, in Black society. You can't talk to anyone unless there's some sort of sexual interest. You especially at this day and age, ain't nobody our age trying to make friends. We trying to put in that time. We ain't got time for that. And so there was no one for me to talk to. I could call my family, but I'm not one for sharing. Matter of fact, it was weird because the first thing I told her the day I called her, I said, now, something she had going on. And I said, no, I don't talk on the phone long. That's not what I do. I just call to check on you. And she said, okay. And so we started talking, and 5-minute conversations turned into 10-minute conversations, turned into hour conversations. But it was never pursuing,
Right.
It was just being able to talk to another person, being able to talk to a woman without that guilt feeling. And I think that's what really is why we're together now, is that the very first time I met her, there was no guilt feeling that, I'm disrespecting my late wife or anything like that. It was just a friend. And when I realized that I wanted to see her again, I immediately started, I prayed about it, and I talked to my late wife, and no, she didn't answer back. I'm not crazy, but I talked to her. I said, I don't feel uncomfortable. I don't feel like I'm being disrespectful. I said, this is a woman that she understands what I'm going through. And I said, so, if you can hear me, so to speak, I don't feel any kind of guilt. And if my feelings change, I felt like my subconscious, God, whatever would have told me, no, this ain't what you need to do. And so, like I said, the very first thing we said, listen, I'm not looking to date. I said, I got a 12-year-old I'm trying to raise. I said, I am a suddenly single parent, and I'm old school, tough love, suck it up, let's go. So, I got to focus on that. I'm not looking to date and all this, that, and the other. I said, but it feels good to talk to someone who's dealing with, that understands that I'm actually depressed.
Just having someone there.
Yeah. And so our conversation be about the kids and what she was going to do when they finish school and all that. And it was about 5 or 6 months after we started, after I joined her group, we started talking, that we actually met. So this was a year later when I met her, and my soul felt at peace.
Okay, let's stop there. For time's sake, let's fast forward some years. Now we have Earl here with us tonight, who has a desire to get married. Earl lives with depression also. So right off the cuff, Mark and Wendy, for those who might be watching and for Earl's sake, would you recommend, you both deal with depression, but you didn't know you both deal with depression. So we're going to talk about some of those challenges. But would you recommend someone dealing with depression to couple with someone else who's dealing with a mental health issue like depression?
I feel like you have to couple with whoever you vibe with. I think it helps when they understand why you do certain things you do. They don't necessarily have to be going through it, but what you need to find is an empathetic person. That's the main thing with dating, because like I said, I didn't realize I had depression. She knew she had been through, been dealing with it for a while, but I felt for her, not even knowing what was going on with me. And I think that's the main thing, not necessarily someone who's walking the same path, but someone who understands that, your road is not smooth.
So, Wendy, let me ask you this. After y'all started, dating, how did you, battling your own depression, deal with Mark when he was going through an episode or withdrawing because of depression? How did you handle that?
Well, let me tell you this. One of the things that has happened is that we didn't necessarily have it at the same time.
Okay.
So whenever I was going through something, he wasn't, but when he was going through something, I saw it. I'm actually the one who recognized the signs, with him, some of the actions that he was doing, some of the things that he would say, some of the things he wouldn't say, some of the things that he just he just wasn't himself. And so I started asking him questions, and I also informed him that he needed to go to counseling. Even though he was married to me, he still had a lot to deal with when it came to grief, not only for himself, but for his son as well.
Not to cut you off, but for you realizing that he was probably depressed before he made the decision to go get counseling, how did you take it personal, his withdrawal, his mood swings or whatever he was displaying? Did you take it personal, or did you reach out in spite of your thoughts in your head of what it might be?
I did not take it personally.
Okay.
Because I had already known what he was going through before we even, started dating. So I had an idea of some of the things that he would have been feeling, could have been feeling, because he was with this woman for a long time. So grief is expected.
Mm-hmm.
How you deal with grief is another thing.
True.
I think that he didn't deal with it because he went into daddy mode immediately, and when I first met him along with his son, I saw this.
Mm-hmm.
I could tell, he was trying to basically kind of cater to his son so his son would be okay, but he wasn't doing anything for himself.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to tell him, hey, you've got to slow down and take care of yourself in order to take care of your son. So, like I said, I saw the signs, didn't take anything personally. If I knew that he was going through something, I'd be like, hey, are you okay? Do you need to talk?
You said something there, Wendy. You didn't take it personal because you are familiar with it. Now, speaking from experience, I had a friend who had depression, but I didn't know all the signs. I didn't know about episodes. I didn't know about those things. So when I asked the question, would you recommend, it takes some time to get to know a person and how they navigate and live with their depression. And when those episodes do come, which I didn't even know it was called an episode until I joined a support group and started reading more on it, I did take it personal. I took it so personal that I didn't want to have anything to do with that person.
And you're absolutely right, because a lot of people do not understand exactly what you go through when you are in a depressive state.
It takes years to get to know that person.
Right.
Depression is nothing simple.
Yeah. It really isn't.
And I don't want people watching. There's no switch. I don't want people watching to think, okay, well, they're having a conversation about depression. This stuff is deep. And it can scrape deeply to the heart of someone who does not understand it. And to realize that it is an illness and to not take it personal.
And you said the correct thing. It's an illness.
Mm-hmm.
It's an illness. And so just like with hypertension, just like with diabetes, just like with, other things you go to the doctor for, you have to maintain your mental state. You have to maintain it with therapy or medication or both.
Every day.
Yeah. And
every
so
day.
It's nothing that you can get rid of. You just can't get rid of it.
And
speaking of medication, go ahead.
I was about to say, and speaking really to the men and to my brother there, is that a lot of times with us and I think everybody get this impression that when you're depressed that you're kind of closed off and you look like Eeyore from Winnie the Pooh. But depression can also trigger other things. You have different ways of reacting. Like for me, I would get emotional real quick, and you're talking. If you say something that I didn't agree with, next thing you know, my voice is loud. And this one right here, she doesn't talk loud anyway. And so as soon as my voice go up, she give you that look like, look here. And so, but she understood.
Right.
So Mark, if I may,
emotional and not violent is what people have to understand.
Right.
If I may, Mark, so like I say, when you're dealing with depression and what you went through, it's never really gone.
No.
It's always there. But when Wendy would go through something, how did you deal with it, knowing that your depression is right here?
Yeah.
You know, how did you become okay? I can separate myself, or did you, like, all right, let me help you, but man, I need some help right now. How did you deal with it?
You have to be selfless. Is that, even if you got the whole weight of the world on your shoulders at the time, if they're hurting, then you might have to grab a few asteroids and the moon and put it on your back at the same time. It's about being selfless. I need help right now, but I feel like she needs help more. A lot of it has to do with just your nature to begin with.
So do you think the fact that because you knew you loved this woman, it was easier to be selfless in that moment? Because a lot of people are in relationships,
yeah,
and their love is superficial because the sex was good or he buy me stuff, but when it comes to moments like this, was it the true that your love for her allowed you to separate your stuff to help her deal with hers?
Right. Yeah, that's exactly it. And even before it was a relationship type of love, became my best friend. So yeah, that feeling of love that, even though I'm bleeding, and like I told her, it's even funny now because getting old and the hip, joints don't work right. Well, her right hip hurt when my left hip is hurting. So when her right hip is hurting and my left hip is hurting, we walk so those two hips are touching. You understand what I'm saying? So even though I'm hurt, they'll prop you up.
That's a true story,
and that's the truth. That's a physical truth. That's not. That's yeah, that's the physical truth, and that's what you do, man. And we know as men, from the time they cut the umbilical cord, they drop the hammer on a black man. So we already know that. But we have to determine that, you know what? I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this because she needs help. That's my friend. She needs help. And hey, Rob, how you doing? Hey, Brian.
Hey, Robert.
And a lot of that has to deal with, and I put it like this: when you dealing with a relationship, especially you dealing with someone else that has depression, I told you have to come to a realization that we're all broken.
Well, see, that's the thing.
I can't fix her. She can't fix me. So you know what we do? We find a way to fill in the cracks of each other.
And I guess my question would be to both of you, but like you said, as a black man, we're not allowed to show weakness.
At all.
Any emotional weakness is sometimes worse than the physical weakness.
Yes.
And if sometimes when we know our partner, our wife is going through something, we have to be strong in spite of. And that's one thing I really want to try to get at, like Wendy, when you're going through it, and he battles depression, but you're needing him, do you ever, I'm sure you don't, but at the moment, the thoughts of like hanging it over his head because you wasn't there the way I needed you to be there for me, because you're down, you're not supposed to be down, do you have those moments? How do you deal when you think that way or if those thoughts come to your head?
I can honestly say I have never thought that.
Okay.
And you know what?
I have never thought that because every time I am in a way, he's there.
Okay.
He's there for me every single time.
That's the selfless part.
Even if he's not aware, he is there. And so whenever he goes through whatever he's going through, I'm there for him. I mean, it's a joint effort. It's not 50-50, it's 100-100.
Rob, it helps here. I've been married twice before. And you know, one became incompatible and the other was due to death. However, in my second marriage, I was already dealing with depression without even realizing it. And it's hard sometimes because you like nobody cares, especially if the other person don't see it.
Right.
And so you're constantly doing, you know, and if you don't acknowledge it yourself, it becomes an even bigger issue. So yeah, I've been on that where, you know, they need me, but I'm not getting what I need from them. It would cause me anger. Sometimes a little, you know, my temper would be short. Now, I want to reiterate, I have a short temper, but I'm not a violent person. You know, okay, it's just, you know, put that out there. Most folks think if you got a short temper,
you're violent, right?
I'm not, but my temper will get short, and I find myself closing off, and you know, I'm like, you know, so I started closing people off because what I would try to do, I would always be the sounding board. Someone would call, they need to talk about, you know, what's going on with them. And so I'm like, well, if you can call and drop your problems on me, you know, then I should be able to do the same. And people will be too busy.
Right.
And so like you said, when you're feeling it and ain't nobody there for you, you know, you turn to different avenues. I turned, you know, I deal with anger. I started to drink, do stuff like that. So it's hard. And that's why maybe it is easier actually with someone who's dealing with depression and anxiety because you have that same mentality. Brian asked the question, when we're both depressed at the same time, how do you cope? What things do you do to help each other come out of it? There's nothing that's gonna bring them out of it.
Right.
So what you do is you sit in the boat together, you hold hands, and you wait for the tide to wash you to shore. That's all you can do, bro.
Yeah, because you can't turn depression off.
Yeah. So, and that's how you cope. You know, there's no, you know. Now I try to use humor as much as I can if I can get her to laughing. Because I tell people all the time, if they're laughing, they're listening. They might not necessarily agree, but they're listening, which means you got them out of their head for a moment,
right?
And they're listening. So that's become my go-to. My defensive mechanism went from anger to trying to make people laugh. But something else too, when you're talking about this, is transparency. Now that's the hardest part.
Let me ask you this. Does it really boil down to the foundation that was set in the beginning? Like I said, the 5-minute conversations that turned to 10-minute conversations, you know, was that vital to having a solid foundation when you became a couple to where you already know how to talk to each other. You already know what sounds and what tones the other person has to know, like, they're off. They're not right together.
Exactly. Because
the foundation is key. The communication foundations is key, is what I'm asking.
Exactly. Because our relationship did not start off, you know, like I said, he was away and I was away. And so there was nothing there, you know. Now, when we started talking, like, again, we started talking about kids. So we talked about, you know, what was going on with us. I would vent to him about, oh, you know, I didn't have a good day. And I'm just, you know, and I finally told him that, you know, I was clinically depressed a couple of times before I even met him. So he knew I already was diagnosed with clinical depression. Now, even though he was not diagnosed as clinically depressed, I knew that he was, just for the simple fact of going through grief, you know, with his previous wife. And so, you know, he would talk to me about, you know, how he was feeling and, you know, having to deal with his teenage son and what he was going to do and how he was going to do this. And we just talked. So we already knew what we were what we were going through at the time before we even had any kind of romantic relationship.
Okay.
And this went on for months.
So you guys were fortunate to have that foundation, because Earl, you said that men aren't allowed to be weak or to have weak moments or whatever you said. And who said that? Who said that? You all say that more than the women do. But with the right person, you are 100% allowed to be who you are. And
we say it because this is what we see.
Right.
That's what you see.
That's what we experience.
Put it this way. You realize that a child from Japan, if he's raised in the United States and all he hears is English, he doesn't know how to speak Japanese. It has to be taught. So if this is all we've seen, this has become a learned behavior for us. So we don't know any different, and we're not going to try any different until we realize that, once we stop caring about what others think, my family used to pick at me because I'm emotional. Normally every year at our family reunion, I end up crying about something, and they use the Marcus Springer leak in a heartbeat. I was like, but I have no problem with that. I don't. And so maybe it's a little easier, I would call salt as a kid because I get emotional, but I would also fight. So find out I ain't really soft, Joe. The tears ain't got me blind. I can still swing. But so it's a little different. And one thing I want to say to Errol, that when you decide you want to get back into dating mode, I can't remember, you live in Virginia?
Yes, Richmond, Virginia.
Okay, I didn't want to put it out there in case, but anyway, you're in Virginia.
You right?
Don't date nobody in Virginia. Find somebody in Jersey. Here's why. Or find somebody in New York.
I know why.
Here's why. Because you have time to talk.
Right.
That was it with us. We had time to talk because you ain't got the physical right there. It's different if you live, across town. I don't want to talk on the phone. I want to talk to you face to face. Well, talking becomes physical. So we had to become intentional in what we did. After the first meeting, we took upon ourselves to find the halfway, which we spent a whole lot of time in Georgia. I should have bought way more lottery tickets, but I didn't. But we spent way more time in Georgia. But every 6 weeks, clear your calendar, 4 to 6 weeks, we're going to see each other. We're going to spend the weekend together, from Friday to Sunday. And that's how the dating took place. So there was an anticipation. You didn't burn out too quick because you're not seeing her every day. You're talking every day, but because you can't be physical, you got time to actually talk.
And here's the big thing about that: you have to have trust with this particular person as well, because dating long distance is not for the faint of heart.
Oh, I've been there, done that. I got the T-shirt and everything. Trust me.
Yeah. So, this has to be a person that you're really into, that you really trust. Especially with the amount of miles that we had. We had 2 states between us. It worked out.
Well, see, Wendy, let me ask you this. So, like I'm a talker. I don't need much to talk. I don't need anything. I can talk your ears off. I can talk you to sleep. Okay. And I have found personally that, and like you said, it's always the right person. It won't be an issue for. But in my dating and my getting to know people, I because I do deal with depression, I like to be upfront. I don't go like, I'm depressed and but I like to get to a point, have the conversation have substance.
Right.
Yes.
Because in the beginning, for me, if you can't handle a substantive conversation in the beginning, you're not going to be able to deal with it down the road.
That's the deal breaker. Yeah.
And for me, it's like, I'm learning that, okay, maybe I'm sharing too much too fast, or I'm getting too deep too fast. Because the one thing I've learned, y'all can, Lavinda and Wendy, y'all can correct me if I'm wrong, but women like to be entertained in the beginning. Entertain me with conversation, entertain me with events or whatever.
No.
This is what my experience. Mark, you can help me out. Please help me out, Mark.
Yeah.
You know, it's like
when you first dealing with,
right,
you have that superficiality that you have to deal with,
right.
And I think that we got past that because we didn't have interest in dating. We just needed an adult to talk to.
Gotcha.
And I think that's what it was, because, like I said, if they're let's do this and let's do that. And even when we would get together, you know, the first time she came here, wasn't nothing extravagant. I took her sightseeing. I took her out to eat breakfast. She let me know right then one crucial thing: do not talk to her when she eating her bacon. That's the first thing.
Stop it.
That's the first thing I learned, man. Talk to them. And I've learned a little bit, you know, being on social media. If you mention a coffee date and she says not a date, then you can go ahead and, okay, well, you gonna have your meal. I'm looking for somebody I can sit down and have a cup of coffee with.
Right.
Yeah.
So Earl, you're looking for somebody that you can sit down and have conversation with.
Well,
so you know what? You're a what's the word? Sapiosexual.
That's right.
Yeah. So you need your brain massaged.
I do. I do.
Yeah.
But see, I've also learned, because I've had tragedy in my life, you know, and the one thing I've learned is that I'm human, you know, right. So I can make you feel good all day long. I can make you laugh and all that. My concern is I like to, when things happen, I like to talk about it and resolve it, you know, and I've learned through trial and error that if you don't have the foundation of communication, you know, when things do arise, there's going to be hurt feelings or conflict.
Right.
You know, and I'm at a point in my life where, like I said, I don't want to have conflict. Right. And I know, I mean, I'm sure y'all can tell me, married couples have conflict. Mm-hmm. But if you have the foundation, how you deal with those conflicts, and that's what's important to me. And that's why I've had plenty of first conversations that lasted 2, 3, 4 hours, because I'll run with the conversation, you know. But it's hard for me as a single man to get a woman to be that in-depth conversation without it being superficial or just on the surface.
They're out there.
I want to say something to you about that, and I might get beat up for making this comment, but it is what it is. There's a whole new generation of thought in women these days when it comes to conversations and what they want from a man. Their standards are a little bit too high. You know, they want a man that's built and rippled with muscles, but yet we got belly fat hanging over our stomachs. You know what I'm saying? And so, you know, women have too high of a standard of what's going on in the world. I think social media has a lot to do with that too, of expectations on the men that they want versus the men that they actually need. Mm-hmm. Again, don't beat me up. That's just my opinion, you know.
But see, that lies the problem, though, because granted, not all men are the same, not all women are the same. Right, but in a general sense, you know, a lot of men have certain traits. A lot of women have certain traits. And nowadays, like I said, you know, you meet a lot of women, if you say the wrong thing, or if it comes out in their ears or comes to their ears the wrong tone, it's like, oh, you hating on me because I'm a successful black. Whoa. That's, you know, and like I said, that to me shows the level of communication I would have with that person. Because if you know me as a person, if you're my woman, I'm supporting you to heaven, hell, and anywhere else we go.
Right.
You know,
Yeah,
but because I support you, don't mean that I'm going to agree with everything you say or do.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
You talked about conflict. Wendy and Mark, I want you all to share your darkest day together as a married couple. I want you to be transparent and think about that one day. I know it was probably more than one, but a day where maybe both of you all were having an episode or you just couldn't stand each other. After you shared that, I want to share this flyer. Mark, you mentioned something about using your comedy to kind of hide your depression.
Yeah.
And it says depression isn't always suicide notes and pill bottles. It's also spending all day in bed, faking a smile, overeating, eating or not eating at all, skipping work to sleep, not showering for days at a time, social isolation, being emotionally distant, cracking jokes, or being the class clown. Um, if you know some of the signs, that helps with the foundation. But it's almost like you have to go to a school of learning to live with someone with depression. Because as you said, Earl, marriages have conflict. But if you go to a class on conflict resolution, you learn how to deal with that stuff. You don't always have to be at each other. I don't care what the situation is, what the mental illness is. Sometimes somebody's got to just shut up. You know what I'm saying? And just let it ride. Because, like you said, it's going to happen over and over and over. I think the best advice I got on marriage, period, was sometimes you just got to play like you're deaf. Okay, they're having an episode. They said that, yeah, you touched at the core of my heart and you ripped my skin apart and my feelings are hurt, but I got to let that ride. I got to let it ride. So with that being said, you all share one of the toughest days that you had to go through and how you got through it.
Who slept on the couch?
Neither one of us.
That was it.
That was it.
We had a disagreement one night. Now my memory is bad. We had a disagreement one night, and it was probably my tone because, like I said, sometimes when I get agitated, whether it has nothing to do with that person or not, my voice either get loud or I go from a baritone to a soprano. It's very high pitched. I can't remember what, and she's confused because she don't even remember. But the only reason I remember is because of what Errol said. We had a disagreement. Something I took the wrong way. And so, and you see she's looking confused. She's scared to death. She probably don't, she has no clue.
I'm scared. But anyway, I'm kind of curious now.
We had a disagreement about
she said what happened
right before bedtime. And she got up and left out the bedroom. And I'm waiting for her to come back, because there ain't no sleeping on the couch and nothing like that. So after about 30, 45 minutes, I didn't hear the TV or nothing. I get up and go look, and she's in the guest room in the bed. And the way it was something I said or how I said it that upset her. I can't remember what it was. I just remember she went in the guest room and got in the bed. And so I said, come on. I said, you got to come on back to bed. Ain't no sleeping in the other room. I said, we'll figure this out. She's like, no, I'm going to stay right here. And so in order to fix the situation, I just told her to get over. I got in the bed with her. But it was me. I don't remember what she asked me something. And I got this bad habit of it takes me a second to tune you in. I'm from a real large family, so she don't remember.
I don't remember.
I'm from a large family, and I learned to tune people out. It could be 30 people in the room talking. I won't hear anybody.
Oh, I do that too.
And so sometimes when she's talking to me, I would have, yeah, bro. I'm like, you can get over. Ain't no sleeping in no separate room. I don't believe that. But you're talking to me.
That's
I
that
won't hear
foundation
you.
again.
Yeah, I won't hear you. You sometimes she has to wait and she make me look at her to hear because I answer. I won't have a clue. It was something, and I kind of I don't remember what it was about, but however I responded to her, she didn't appreciate, and she doesn't argue. So she got up and left out the room. Like I said, I thought she went in the living room, and after about an hour, I'm like, wait a minute. And she was in the guest bedroom. I'm like, come on, let's get on. She's like, no, I'm not coming back. You know, you need the space. I'm like, no, get over. So she slid over, and we laid there a minute. Then she like, this is ridiculous. So we went back to our.
You know what?
I remember that.
You know what? You are dealing with.
It took a minute because we don't have conflict. She's not going to argue. She'll speak her piece, you know, and then she'll look at you every now and then, and you know how them ladies set them hips with one leg behind them.
And you know what? You are
scared of you.
You are dealing with depression. We can't forget, if there are two dealing with it, the woman is also dealing with hormone issues.
Yes, Lord.
And the individuals are dealing with your own issues that have absolutely nothing to do with each other.
Those
so all of
flashes
this
are
is
driving me nuts.
compounded. So, Earl, I just believe in my heart of hearts, there is an intellectual woman out there that is going to have enough compassion, patience, and understanding. Because you know what? Mark and Wendy, they got favor, but they're not the only couple that God is going to say, okay, you need her, and she needs you.
And one thing that I will say is, like I said before, we didn't go looking for each other. We weren't looking, and it might be somebody. It might be somebody that that you're not looking at in that way. However, you have a good foundation with them, and just like what Jennifer mentioned earlier, having that foundation was an important part, of the love and the trust between, her and her husband. That foundation was there because they had a long distance relationship as well. And so, it doesn't have to be a long distance relationship. It just has to be a type of relationship where there is that foundation of trust. There is that foundation where you understand what I'm going through when I'm having a bad day. You understand, I might not feel like talking this day, but you have to communicate that to her or to him. Hey, I'm kind of having a bad day, not really in the mood to talk. Can I call you later, or can we just talk later? But you have to make sure and communicate that to him or her, because if you just say, hey, I don't feel like talking right now, I'm going to take that personally.
But see, that's one of the things, like the flyer that Lavinda put up, it had a social isolation.
Right.
Like I'm new to Virginia, but I realized that I purposely go to work, come home.
Mm-hmm.
I can't be disappointed if I don't meet nobody.
That's true. You do have to get out there.
But the other thing with that though is, like I have come across women that they can sense or identify he's depressed. So every conversation is, you okay? Or what can I do? I ain't no baby. I don't need you to change my diaper or nothing like that, And like I said, it's as a man, like I said, it's hard because.
Let me ask you this: if that woman did not ask you Are you okay? How are you doing? What, how do you feel about that?
That's the thing, though. Like, for me, if I allow myself to meet somebody or to try to get somebody number or whatever, that means that, okay, I'm pulling myself or I'm in a good space right now. If you're the one thing a lot of women don't understand, that is, you're dealing with someone who deals with depression, every day isn't a depressed day.
Now that's true.
If you constantly ask me, "Are you okay?" Yeah, when I'm at home, I'm quiet. I'm chilling. I'm watching TV. I may not say a word. Ain't nothing wrong. But when you constantly, "Are you okay? Is everything all right?" That is going to set me off, and that's going to make me withdraw, because now I feel like you're using my depression as a way to get in or use it over me in some form or fashion.
That's a woman who hasn't learned your ways yet. That's a woman who doesn't understand depression. That's a woman who's just going to take some time to get to know you and how you manage your depression.
Okay.
Welcome that woman that asks.
And when she does ask you all that, have you told her, hey, you really don't have to ask all the time, I'm okay. Did you express that to her?
Always, anytime, no matter who it is, I'll let you know, like, hey, I'm all right. I'm good.
It's a scary thing, Earl. It's a scary thing. It's a scary thing when you talk about suicide and you're isolating yourself and you're alienating people. You have to understand, Earl. You've got to understand. This is not easy for someone who's trying to get to know you. You got to have patience with them, just like they have patience with you.
Yeah.
Patience.
Capital P.
Use it in a sentence.
But see, ladies, something else that if they really want to be there, they have to understand. Because I tell people all the time, even on my worst day, I'm good. If you ask me,
right?
Because Wendy does it. Hey, how you doing? I'm good.
I'm like, no, you're not.
No, you're not. I'm good.
Does he wear his feelings on his sleeve?
Lately, them bad days deal with the fact that we went to the gym today. I won't be video chatting with nobody tomorrow.
Well, another thing to think of it as a way of caring as well. I mean, they might overdo it, but at least they're asking, and because
I'm cynical in that regards.
And I'm gonna tell you why I say that, because I know with me, there was a time when I didn't have anybody asking me how I was doing. And I don't know whether that hurt worse than having somebody to constantly ask me, are you okay? Because to me, if somebody keeps asking me, hey, are you okay? Are you okay? That shows genuine concern versus someone who's, like a friend or a family or whatever that don't even ask you. And that causes problems too, because it makes me feel like, hey, they don't care.
No, I get that. But it's a double-edged sword, because on one hand, it's like the wrong people are asking and the right people saying nothing.
Okay. You are funny.
Well, telling the truth.
Well, that makes a difference then.
The people that really care, the people that really care,
or supposed to care,
they know when to ask.
Right.
And that's why he got aggravated. It's not how many times they ask. Sometimes it's just who's asking.
It's just as okay.
It's just who's asking.
Well, that makes more sense.
Yes.
And you know what? Go ahead, Earl.
Like I said, I had one of my classmates. He was on one of the chats, but like he battles depression, right? And as like I said, we've been friends since high school. And something in the universe will be like let me call and check on him, or he'll call and check on me. I do have some female friends who I'm just calling to check on you, make sure you're good. Okay, fine. It ends right there. But then you have those that are trying to win you over or win your heart, and they're beating, and it's like, I don't need that. But I said, if you learn me as a person, you know that you can talk directly to me. You can ask me directly. And if you're really learning me, then you would observe when Earl has something to say, he's going to say it. But because it worked the way you approached Todd, your ex-boyfriend from 3 relationships ago, because you had to beat him over the head. I'm not him. And a lot of women don't know how, because if it worked for one, they're going to use that same recipe on every guy they come across. And I guess people do it in general, but it's like sometimes you got to, ask yourself, if I'm really wanting to help, if I'm really concerned, then, I'm doing more observing than asking.
Okay.
Yeah. You know what? And it takes observing. It takes a lot of observing before you realize how to react. Now, to be honest, Robert Congress put it, the true friendship trumps love, marriage. You know what? At my age,
yes.
Earl, you know what? You may want to go younger because listen, at my age, I don't have time. I don't have the patience.
No, you're right.
I don't have the compassion to try to cuddle somebody.
You're right.
I'm trying to build my career. I don't have time for it. But I would be a damn good friend.
But
older women, let me finish. Older women, Earl, we're pretty much set in our ways. But there are some women are natural nurturers anyway. So there might be a younger woman out there who is just dying to take care of a man, because when I was younger, I loved it. I loved taking care of my man.
But see, the thing is though, like I'm 37. I'll be 38 next week.
Okay.
That's my story. I'm sticking to it.
People are watching this, Earl. Women are watching this. Don't send a representative.
I'm 38. But
what day next week?
16th.
Mine's the 14th.
Hey, birthday twin.
Hey.
But one of the things is, though, like I said, I'll be 53 next week, and women around my age, like Lavinda said, they're in their career or they're starting their business, or and like you said, they don't have time. Most of them don't have time.
Don't want to take the time.
They don't want to take the time. If I go younger, then they're still in that, entertain me phase. Every day supposed to be entertainment. Why are you so serious? So like I said, I'm in a awkward situation in life because yes, I'm ready to love. Yes, my depression is in a controllable state, but like I said, to know me and to be with me is to be with my depression as well.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
So how do I meet someone who's career minded or business minded, and like you said, don't have time or don't want to take the time to dedicate to me? So like I said, like platforms like this, hopefully we get some people to understand.
Yeah.
If it's something or someone that you want, you have to put in that time and effort.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Have to. Because marriage itself is a job. Marriage with depression, that's overtime. You don't put in that you got to work overtime.
Right.
That's a job in itself. Navigating and managing depression that doesn't go away. Right. But you know what? We are out of time. We are out of time. Already.
One thing I know is time is short, but Jennifer says sometimes she deflects because she needs to talk, and so she asks if he's okay. But that's because your man. In the case of somebody like, for instance, Errol, don't ask me if I'm okay. And like I'm like that. Wendy be like, remind me to ask you something later.
Right.
Right. You ask me right now. Don't do that. So just boom.
Yep.
And so, some are like that. But when you know your person, then you can do how you do. And
I like that. When you know your person. And Earl, the day you just let it go, just let it go. Be good just being alone. That's when she'll come.
I've been good alone for the past 8 years. Shit, I'm tired.
Oh, you know what?
I'm so tired of being alone.
Okay, next month. You know what? She's going to be watching these forums. She's watching these forums. She's getting to know Earl. Yeah. So next month, young lady or whoever it is, next month.
Better be a lady. Better be a lady.
He will be back with Robert Congress, and they're going to be talking about aging and depression, growing old with depression.
I'm 38.
Can we talk about your beard right quick? Can you share about what happened with your beard before you go? We're going to close this. You go ahead, Earl.
I was at my favorite spot, Wawa, getting a little something to eat, and this young lady approached me. She flirted. Her pickup line was so attractive and cute. I had to, engage in conversation, and she asked me how old I was, and I told her, "You guess, take a guess," and she said 60. And that just like sunk my shit. And the next day I went straight to the barbershop and bam, I'm 30.
Hit me with that jet black.
You know what I mean? How dare you? I've never been told I look older than what I am. And she said 60.
Wow.
And needless to say, we did not exchange phone numbers because after that, I was out.
She wanted your social security number. She thought you were close to that check.
You looking for me? Yeah, exactly. She ruined it.
Oh. Wow.
Well, you know what?
Maybe she thought you were a silver fox.
Nope.
That's what I told him. I said, anyway, you have to be comfortable in your own skin.
All I heard
I was looking for, You are funny. Okay, we're gonna save that for next month, Earl. What I had to say. Yeah, you didn't wash that.
And this will be back next month.
Bro, we got Buc-ee's here. We went to date night at Buc-ee's.
I went to Buc-ee's for the first time in Texas, and I love the place. Robert was actually
here to Alabama. We went to Buc-ee's for date night.
Okay, so we need to get Buc-ee's to sponsor. We giving shout outs to Buc-ee's.
That's right. Send us a gas card or something.
Okay.
Robert, when you come through, Robert. Hit me up when you come through, Robert.
Okay, thank you guys for joining us, and get the current issue of The Other Woman magazine, her rebirth. Wendy Shipman is sharing when she thought it was the right time to get on medication for her depression. A lot of people will go through their whole life undiagnosed and without prescription medicine to deal with depression. So that's in there. And also, Earl, your article is titled, "I'm Not a Doormat, I'm Not Your Doormat."
Right.
Also dealing with depression. So go to theotherwomanmagazine.com and you can get to know Wendy and Earl a little bit more through their articles. And also Robert Congress, who is also on the Men's Forum for Depression. He has an article in this also. So we always try to keep mental health awareness in the Other Woman magazine, because like I always say, it doesn't just go away. It's always there. So thank you guys, and good night. And Earl, I will see you next month.
All righty.
Okay, bye you guys.